conference was about the decisions that went against Newcastle, against Chelsea at the weekend. There were undoubtedly a few, and Eddie Howe revealed that Newcastle have contacted the PGMOL, that's the body that looks after referees and refereeing, Professional Game Match Officials Limited, PGMOL, and it was because there were a number of calls in the Chelsea match that Newcastle were unhappy with and felt were just plain wrong, were incorrect, particularly the decision not to award a penalty when Anthony Gordon was barged over in the box by Trevor Chalobah.
Yeah, we will be seeking clarification, and I think that call's already gone in, not from me personally, but from the club. And yeah, we just want to know the thought process behind the decisions. I thought, and I still do, it was a clear penalty, having reviewed it. I've not changed my mind, but it wasn't given, and for me, my time's best spent moving forward rather than backwards.
Is there any point, Ando, in seeking clarification? What do you learn from that conversation, do you think?
No idea.
Yeah.
I haven't got a clue. You get clarity, does that mean that it's not going to happen again?
Well, no,
I mean, the amount of sides. Look, we're not the first team that have, and the first club that have done this. We've seen where other clubs have asked for clarity over decisions that have gone on in games. Has that changed the way things have been looked at? No. So, you know, they no doubt they will get an answer, whether it's the answer they want to hear or not.
Well, and that's kind of my question: is what answer do they even want to hear? Well, I suppose, you know, because an apology doesn't change anything. No,
it's not going to change it.
Yeah,
but you know, does it mean because they're looking for clarity? Does it mean that it'll be put right in the future? You know.
Well, in some respects, clarity doesn't mean the referees accepting that they made a mistake. Yeah. It might be, we don't think that we've looked at it and we think this was the right decision, here's why.
It was something we talked about last night, you know, and that you have VAR and one thing and everything else, and VAR looked at it. But it still comes down to individual interpretation. Yeah. Whichever way you want to look at it. The referee on pitch didn't think it was a penalty. The people at VAR looked at it. Individual interpretation didn't think it was a penalty, and that was it.
No, that sort of is it. Yeah, just quickly from you, Razor, as well. From your perspective, what do you think the point of, in Newcastle's minds, the point of, or the hope is that they'll achieve something from contacting the PGMOL?
Well, I think Eddie Howe's not the sort of manager who will be strongly critical of any officials in post-match interviews or pre-match interviews like today. He's quite measured, and even after the final whistle, when emotions are running high, he manages to stay controlled. So I think from Newcastle to go through official channels to, one, register their displeasure at the decision, that may well have been made clear privately. I'm sure it was on the pitch and on the sidelines. I'm certain it was on Saturday. But to have a conversation that could well be constructive and, as the manager put it there, seek clarification so they can understand why those decisions were reached, even if they don't agree with the thinking, the thought process, or the way that the laws of the game were applied, so that they understand. It could also be useful for the PGMOL. They certainly are sent a lot of feedback. How much they actually pay attention to it, I don't know, because everyone has a go from all sides, don't they? But for them to hear it from Newcastle's perspective, why it was wrong, why they felt it was wrong, and I think just to talk it through, it probably helps get it out of their system, and then they have to move on. I want to just mention, on the subject of officials, by the way, Manchester United on Boxing Day, the referee has been appointed, and it's Anthony Taylor, who is listed as a Cheshire official, but he's from Greater Manchester and is known to be a fan of Altrincham, who are a non-league team, and that's less than 10 miles from Old Trafford. Now, he's refereed this fixture before at St James's and at Manchester United as well. There's been some controversy in the past. There have been other times when it's been fine. He referees Manchester derbies regularly and many big games, and has long been considered one of the top referees. But that appointment, particularly at a time when Newcastle have got their issues with the PGMOL, especially on social media today, hasn't gone down too well with the fan base. There's a different officiating team for Burnley a week tonight, next Tuesday. Rob Jones from Merseyside is doing that game. But Peter Banks, the VAR for Newcastle Chelsea, the one that's coming in for criticism for a number of those decisions, whether it was the potential Garnacho red card or the 3 penalties Newcastle could have had, he will be VAR for Sunderland against Manchester City on New Year's Day. So we'll probably be talking about him again on this show in the not too distant future.
I would have thought so. Right then, injury news ahead of that trip you've just talked about to Manchester United on Boxing Day.
Well, Eddie Howe said he was expecting Nick Pope to return to training this morning. He's missed 7 matches with a groin injury, but he has a chance of being named in the squad for Man United. Whether or not he will be, we don't know. And if he is, whether he will start, well, that's something that we can't say for certain at this stage. Other players, well, there's no time frame yet, according to Eddie Howe, for the return of Tino Livramento from a knee injury. He's still being assessed. I asked him if he had some clarity over the nature of the injury, the extent of it, how long he'll be out, and he said not yet. And we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. An area of the team that they're really short in, with Emil Kraft and Kieran Trippier also unavailable. Another defender, Sven Botman, is making good progress in his recovery from a back injury, but he hasn't trained yet. So I wouldn't expect to see him at Manchester United. But we might see Joe Linton on the pitch at some point on Boxing Day. He's been in the squad, but deemed not fit enough to start the last 3 matches. And he has the groin problem that was sustained in the Champions League. They've just been giving him it longer to get fully fit, but they've named him in the squad. Eddie Howe says that's kind of been as an emergency measure in case they needed him, perhaps for a set piece, or they needed a physical presence at some point. So we might have Joe Linton involved at some point in the squad against Man United. And Newcastle are also monitoring Lewis Hall, who returned against Chelsea from a hamstring problem and put in on Saturday a brilliant performance.
I believe Lewis came through okay. Yeah, I mean,